How serious and extreme is child labor in South Africa?
I don't think it's as serious as some people want to make it out. But on the other hand, we have got some challenges that have to be dealt with. I think in Africa, South Africa's perhaps got some of the better laws and structures in place to deal with elements of child labor. But then again, we sometimes look past some of the areas where we have got problems, and some of them are serious.
Now, we're going to talk about those challenges, but 1 in 5 children in sub-Saharan Africa are subjected to the worst form of child labor practices. Why is the region, this particular region, so affected?
I think it's because there's a lack of governance, a lack of labor market structure. There's no laws to protect children, there's no policing of it and implementation of inspection services. And in Africa, we fall down very seriously when it comes to the governance aspects.
Now, what are you doing as an organization, as the ILO, to combat this?
As the ILO, we've got certain conventions that are in place. That determines the levels of standards that we want to see implemented internationally. And in Africa, we've got offices spread throughout the continent, whereby we work with governments and social partners to, first of all, put laws into place, and then to help them with the follow-through and the implementation of that.
Now, child labor is said to be predominant, especially in the agricultural sector. Why is that particular sector so affected?
I think when it comes to the rural, informal and agricultural sectors, you find it more rife because children are not so privy to going to school. They are at home. They follow the suit of, the path of their parents who are working on the farms. The families see a more income. If the more children they're working, the more income they're going to bring. And so they negate the fact of sending their children off to school and allow that to happen. Employers, on the other hand, and it's be careful not to generalize, but some employers allow this to happen knowing that they've got a cheaper form of labor.
Is this the most problematic sector, though?
I don't think so in South Africa. I think the informal sector is perhaps the more problematic one to agriculture. I think in agriculture we've got certain areas that may be privy to this.
Mm-hmm. You talked about challenges earlier. Let's focus on South Africa. What are some of those challenges?
I think here we have the young girl child and sometimes the boy child that are subject to prostitution. If one looks at the very serious aspects of this, who are put out into the streets working for pimps, that is the very ugly side of what we're talking about on child labor. In the other side of it, you find children working in family businesses, which one can argue about, is that really an issue? But when they are kept out of school to work in family businesses, or kept out of school to work in informal areas, or the child that is sent to a street corner to beg while the mother or father monitors that so they can bring in some income, because children touch the hearts of people far more than an adult will do. Those are the challenges we're facing at the moment.
Now, globally, the 3rd Global Conference on Child Labor is currently underway in Brazil. Take us through some of the, or the importance of this particular conference.
Well, in The Hague in 2010, Brazil agreed to host a follow-up a conference, international conference, which is now happening. And there's 4 themes that are being dealt with. The one is legislation, the other one education and training, social protection would be a third one, and then your labor market structures. And so what is being discussed is what are the good case scenarios that we can celebrate on, and where are the challenges like the one you mentioned in sub-Saharan Africa, and how do we tackle that going forward?
What are some of those good cases that we can celebrate on?
Well, I think in some countries they've got very good schooling systems which monitor the attendance of children going to school, so that when they do leave school they've got skills that they can sell into the labor market. And the countries that are performing well there will be looked towards to saying, right, how can you help those that are not doing so well?
What is the next step for the ILO, especially looking at sub-Saharan, where it seems like the situation is very dire?
I think first of all we've got to look to the countries that are setting a good example, and I think South Africa and the sub-region would be one of those where we can look at our labor market structures and our laws, and we've got to try and find a common base which we spread to the sub-region, and then looking to North Africa to do the same, Central Africa and the Eastern Africa. And once we've got a certain platform to work off, I think that's the way we need to move forward.
And do we have adequate laws that protect children right here in our own country?
In South Africa, I would argue that we've got internationally good laws in protecting the children. How that is implemented is where the challenge comes.
Implementation has always been a problem.
Yes.
And that is Vic van Vuuren. He is the director of the International Labour Organization, or the ILO. Thank you so much for joining us right here in studio.
Thank you very much.